According to the Merriam-Webster dictionary, a bollard is defined as any of a series of short posts set at intervals to delimit an area, such as a traffic island or to exclude vehicles. But for any fan of GeoGuessr and OpenGuessr, the real definition should be one of the best clues in the game. Now, there are indeed thousands and thousands of different types of bollards in the world. Obviously, we're not going to be able to go over all of those in this video. But today, I have over 70 of, I think, the most essential bollards that you should know if you want to get good at the game. Now, I honestly think that bollards could be the #1 clue when differentiating different countries in Europe, so that's where we're going to start. And we're starting off in beautiful Germany because Germany perhaps has the most basic and default bollard in all of Europe. This is what I call the standard European style bollard. It is mostly white with a sloped top and has a color in the middle. Germany happens to be black, and inside of the black is a reflector. And here is what it looks like from behind. Now, this bollard is not exclusive to Germany. This one here looks identical, and it is found in Luxembourg. So if you see this default bollard, you should be in either Germany or Luxembourg. Keep in mind, however, that in Germany, when you are near an intersection, the color of the reflector will actually be orange. Now, very similar to this bollard is going to be this one right here, which instead of a white reflector in the middle, it is going to be red. This one is found in actually a handful of countries, this one being found in Croatia. But right next door in neighboring Hungary, it is also found. And it is also found in one more country, and that being North Macedonia. But it is kind of rare to find bollards in this country anyways, but if you do see it, it might look like that. Although North Macedonia also uses bollards that look just like this, with the red kind of going all the way around and more of a skinny tube-like bollard. Now, sometimes when you're in Lithuania, you might see a bollard that looks similar, but that is actually not red, it is orange. Here's a better look of it, and I do think the orange is a slightly different hue than the German intersection one. Now, major news in the bollard world, Slovakia actually changed their bollard recently to this one right here. This is a new Slovakian bollard that you will see in new coverage in the country. As you can see, it does look very close to the Croatian and Hungarian style. However, you will definitely see plenty of this style in Slovakia as well. This one is very unique. As you can see, there are two rectangles in the reflector, which is actually quite rare. There are only two countries that does this. Of course, one of those countries is Slovakia and the other one is Czechia. Therefore, if you see this bollard, you should be in one of those two countries, which really helps narrow it down within Europe. Now, this bollard does look very similar to Lithuania. It has the same color orange in the middle, but this is actually belongs to Spain. The difference here is going to be the top, which, as you can see, the Spanish top is a little bit split and seems to be hollow in the middle. Also, Spain does sometimes have a number on the bollard, but not always. A little bit of a bonus bollard tip for you all: if you do see a green top of a Spanish bollard, you will be in the region of Extremadura, which is in the western part of Spain. Andorra's bollards seem to be a little bit smaller. As you can see, the black seems to be closer to the top, and the reflector is kind of chunkier in the middle. That's the best way I can describe it. This bollard is found in Andorra and can also sometimes be found in Spain as well. But there is one that looks quite similar to the Andorran one, and that is going to be the Greek bollard. As you can see, there seems to be some sort of reddish orange square in the middle, and this is the Greek bollard. Portugal uses a handful of bollards actually. This one might be the most common, and it is unique. As you can see, the black actually extends all the way up to the top almost here, which is not seen in any other bollard. However, don't be surprised if you see some normal ones in Portugal as well. They do have quite a few that they use here. Apparently, Poland really loves the color red. Instead of a black band, it actually has a completely red band, and it's very tough to see, but there is a red reflector in the middle there too. And yes, Poland does love to use numbers on their bollards as well. This right here is the Italian bollard, and there is no white on top, which makes this bollard fairly unique. However, a couple of other countries also use this. The first country, of course, is going to be San Marino. No surprise there, as they are located within Italy. But also the country of Albania uses this bollard as well. Now, this country isn't a part of Europe, but we are in the general Mediterranean area. Israel also uses a fairly standard European type bollard. Here it is. It looks like it's slightly skinnier, but it does kind of just look like a generic standard bollard. All right, we're entering the next phase of bollards here. We have a oddball. This is the Serbian bollard, which is off-centered. As you can see, the red is like way off to the left for some reason, not even centered. And that's typical of most Serbian bollards. For some reason, they are just all lopsided, and I'm not really sure why. Here we have a very iconic and important bollard to learn. This is the Austrian bollard, which can be found in primarily two different countries, but Austria is the main one. As you can see, it is mostly white with a red interior reflector. The top is black, and you may see this little nub or nipple on top. The other country to use this is going to be the country directly to its south, and that is Slovenia. I should also mention that you can find this bollard also in Montenegro, but it's just so rare to see any sort of bollards in Montenegro that you probably don't have to worry about it too often. But just know you can see it in Montenegro. Here it is, and here we are in beautiful Switzerland. They do have a very similar color scheme to the traditional European bollard, but it's a different shape. It's more of a cylindrical pattern, and they sometimes do have an attachment on the side. And neighboring Liechtenstein has the exact same bollard. We now head into the next category of European bollards, and these ones are very similar. However, they are a lot skinnier, seem to be taller, and slightly slanted. That's a bit of a tongue twister, but here we are in Latvia. This is the very first one, and as you can see, it is traditionally black with a white reflector in the middle. Here in Estonia, instead of being slanted, it's more of a cylindrical baton-like bollard, kind of similar to Switzerland, except it's a bit skinnier and taller. And here we have the Swedish version as well. It is very similar to the German one. It looks very, very generic. Now, I should mention the previous three bollards of Sweden, Estonia, and Latvia can all be found in orange and yellow as well, not just this black and white that we see here, although the black and white is more common. Now, one country where you won't see an orange or yellow variant is going to be Finland, which you will always see this black and white bollard. But watch out, because this one looks very similar to the Estonian bollard. And I really hope you recognize this one right here. This is the French bollard, and it might be the most famous bollard in the entire world. It is a very thick white post with this thick red band in the middle, but somewhat of a pyramid top to it. And it does not always come in red, as you can see by all of these bollards lining the road here. It sometimes also comes in this silver and gray. Now, Ireland uses a lot of bollards in their countries, but they do like to use green bollards. And you can probably remember this because Ireland is a very green country in itself. There's a lot of green hills and whatnot. So green bollards definitely make a lot of sense. They don't look identical to this, but they do have quite a lot of green looking bollards. The UK is kind of the same way. They have a ton of different bollards that they use. For example, there are two right here, but the one that I highly recommend learning is going to be this one right here, which I believe to be the most common by far. It is a black base, white section in the middle, black top with a red reflector in the middle. I think this is the bollard to learn for the UK. All right, and next category of bollards, here we go. We have the white bollard with some sort of colored rectangle in the middle. This one happens to belong to Turkey, which uses a red rectangle in the middle. And Turkey loves to use bollards. I mean, they use so many of them. So this is a really, really good clue. But unfortunately, other countries also use this bollard. Close by, Romania also uses this bollard. However, Romania really doesn't use bollards too often, so they are quite rare, but do not be surprised if you see this bad boy in Romania. The Netherlands also uses a very similar color pattern to that bollard, but the red seems to be skinnier and longer, so that might be the difference there. But yes, it is the same color pattern. Now going over to Belgium, we have the exact same bollard, but instead of red, it's going to be this light orange, yellowish color in the middle. But this is not the most common bollard type in Belgium, I would say. I believe this one is more prevalent in the country. It is very similar, it has the same color reflector, but it has a slanted top and definitely looks a bit chunkier in my opinion. But watch out, because Denmark uses a very similar looking bollard. It has this same yellow reflector, but there usually is an orange band on top. I would say maybe 95% of the time there is an orange band on top, and potentially some numbers or writing on the bottom as well. This Denmark bollard is a very good clue for the country though. And here we have potentially the inverse of the Belgian bollard. Here we have the Iceland bollard, which is all yellow with a gray or white reflector on top. This is a very common bollard, as you can see, going all over Iceland's roads, and it's a pretty good clue for the country, as not many other countries use an all yellow bollard. Heading over now to Russia, they may be the #1 bollard fan in the world because they use so many. I mean, look how many are in this one panorama right here. So many bollards. Typically, they use a very similar color pattern to what we've been seeing here. White, black with a red in the middle. Now, they use a lot of different types of bollards in Russia. This might be the most common right here. And here we have another bonus bollard tip for you all. This one appears in only the eastern half of Russia. As you can see, the color scheme is very similar to the normal Russian bollards, but there is that skinny stick on the right side that kind of pokes out on top and also will extend pretty far down into the ground. The bollard itself is also fairly skinny, so if you see that, you should be only in the eastern half of Russia, but keep in mind the normal one you saw before is everywhere in the country. And here we are in Kazakhstan, which does use quite a few Russian bollards, but also uses this one, which is unique to the country. You can see it kind of has like a 90-degree angle on top here, and yeah, this is a unique bollard to Kazakhstan. All right, we have made it to North America. North America is actually not really a bollard heavy continent, but there is one country, that being Mexico here, that does use a countrywide bollard. This is the Mexican bollard. It is mostly white with a black bottom there and a white reflector, and yes, it is found all throughout the country. Now, the one you just saw was quite thick, but it also might come in this kind of skinny paper thin version as well. Either way, just look for the color being black on the bottom and mostly white. Unfortunately, Canada and the United States of America do not have countrywide bollards that they use regularly, so we have to turn to regional bollards, which are actually a very good clue for region guessing the country. This one is found in only the province of Alberta in Canada. It is mostly white with a black top and a little black band right there. This is the Alberta bollard and is quite a good clue for the province. And the United States uses a lot of bollards throughout the country. A lot of them really are not specific to a general region, but this one right here is. This is the Nevada bollard, which, as you can see, has this sort of metal spike with this black section on top, this black rectangle with a bit of a reflector in the middle. This one is only found in Nevada. Nice. But we are not even close to being done. Here we are in Wyoming. This is the Wyoming bollard, and it should be only found in this state. It has a metal stick with a circular white reflector on top, and pay close attention to that shape, because here we have another very similar looking bollard, but instead of a circle on top, it is going to be this diamond shape. This is not a state specific bollard. It is typically found in Montana predominantly, but can be found in all the neighboring states to the east of Montana. For some reason, the western US has all the good bollards, because we have yet another unique state bollard too, this time the state of Washington. Typically it's on a brown post, which is quite unique, and has this white reflector near the top. This one is still unique to Washington state. And we now head down to South America. South America really is not a bollard heavy continent, and so it should be fairly quick, but one of the countries that does use a lot of bollards is Ecuador, and here is one of them that they use. They actually use quite a few variants. This one is one of the more common ones as seen here, but they also have this one, which is kind of like two standard European reflectors in the middle, which is kind of cool, kind of strange that it's in Ecuador, to be honest with you, but these are two of the most common bollards seen in Ecuador. There are quite a few others though. And this one looks almost identical to that Spanish bollard from earlier, doesn't it? Well, this one is found in Chile, and yeah, this is a great clue for the country. It's not going to be seen everywhere in the country, but hey, there's two right here. And finally, the last notable bollard in South America, in my opinion, is going to be this one, which is found in Peru. And this one kind of looks like that Belgian bollard, but instead of it being flat, it's like a triangular prism. There's a pyramid on top. That is unique to Peru, so very, very good clue. Now, I'll be honest, Africa doesn't have that many bollards. If you do see one, it is quite rare, with the exception of this one, which is why I'm going to talk about it right now. And you may recognize this one. This one was found in France earlier, and yes, Senegal, former colony of France, also uses this bollard. It is the exact same one. This one has the silver one, but you also may see the red band as well. And here we have another very similar looking bollard to what we saw earlier. This one may remind you of the turkey bollard from earlier, and yes, you would be correct. This one though is found in Australia. We have headed down to Oceania. This is the famous Australian bollard. They love to use this bollard as well. Look at all of those all over there. And yes, indeed, Christmas Island, the Australian territory, does also use this bollard. However, for some reason in the Cocos Keeling Islands, they do not. They use this bluish bollard. Sometimes they use other things as well. So Yeah, it is a little bit strange that this is also an Australian territory that uses this random blue bollard. But finally, here we are in the other country of Oceania, and that is going to be New Zealand. Here we have the New Zealand bollard, which is very similar to the Australian one, but there is one key difference. Instead of there being a red section in the middle that is surrounded by white, this time in New Zealand, the red goes all the way to the sides. This is a very, very good way to tell the difference between the two countries, because they both love to use bollards all over the place. Oh no, this is a sad sight right here. We have a New Zealand bollard down, folks. New Zealand bollard down. I should note though that from behind, the bollard does look a little bit different. There is like a white section usually in the middle from behind, but the red section does creep around on the sides. And we already touched a little bit upon this continent earlier, but here we are in the last continent with bollards, and that's going to be Asia. Here we are starting off in Sri Lanka, that uses these very unique bollards. These have black on the bottom and white on top, similar to the Mexican bollard, but notice how the shape is just way different. These are way chunkier, way thicker, and yeah, you shouldn't get those two confused. Here we are in Bangladesh, and they love to use black and white alternating bollards on the side of the road. Here there are quite a few of them. Wow, they go off screen. Oh, even more over here. But don't forget about Cambodia. They also like to use this red and white alternating bollard, and yeah, they also like to use a lot of bollards. Oh my god, that's a lot right there. That is a lot. Next door neighbor Thailand likes to use a similar pattern but different colors. They use white and black alternating instead of white and red. But Indonesia also likes to use this color pattern, so just keep in mind Thailand and Indonesia have very similar looking bollards. And here we are in what could be quite a few countries when it's zoomed in like this, but this happens to be Malaysia. I promise this is the last country that uses this type of bollard right here. Malaysia unfortunately has a ton of bollards that they use, so I'm gonna give you a couple right now. If you thought that bollard lacked reflectors, well, here you go. Here are two additional reflectors that you might see in Malaysia. This one has 3. No, it's not a glitch. There are a whole bunch of them right over here. Now that one was kind of rare, but this one's a lot more common. This is a traditional Malaysian bollard. You have a black bottom once again with a white body, white reflector on top, and a black band. Notice the reflector is not in the black band like it is in so many other places. And here we are in Japan. Now Japan has a ton of bollards that they use, so I really can't even give you one, but I am going to give you one thing to look at, because Japan likes to use this circular reflector on top that kind of sticks out from the rest of the bollard. There could be a lot of different variations of what could be on the actual pole here, so don't really worry about that too much. This is good for region guessing for expert players, the pole is, but just look at that reflector for now, because that is a good indicator that you are in Japan. Now Mongolia really only uses one bollard, and it's this one right here. It kind of looks like a bowling pin. It is mostly white with these 2 red bands. The bottom is definitely a little bit thicker than the top, and yeah, Mongolia, I guess they like to go bowling. And there you have it. I think those are some of the most essential bollards in the game. If I did not mention a country in this video, it has to do with one of 2 reasons. One, they don't really use too many bollards, or if they do, it's very rare, or they just have so many bollards that it's really not even worth mentioning one, because I'd have to go and mention all of them. If you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them in the comments section. And if you want to see a part 2 with some more intermediate or even expert level bollards, let me know and I can make that video. This video was definitely built more towards the beginners. These are the essential bollards that you need to know, but there are so many more around the world that can be discussed. So just let me know in that comment section. Before you leave, if you can hit that subscribe button, we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers here on the OpenGuessr channel. If you can help us out, it would be tremendously appreciated. Down in the description is going to be a bollard quiz, which can help you memorize the bollards a bit easier. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.